So this is my first video for YouTube, and I wanted to show everyone that has a 2014 Honda Civic EX what it would take to get the HDMI port to function while in motion. Took me about 20 minutes to work my way through the menus and figure out exactly where I needed to go through some trial and error. I don't really have any documentation for it, but figured shooting a short video would help everyone out. Just to show everyone. Let's see if I can get it to focus. So that's the stock head unit for the 2014 EX Non-Navi, and right now it's just in its standard mode. We're going to go into the diagnostics mode here in a second, and next to me is my Lenovo IdeaPad with an HDMI port. Give you guys some light here. So standard HDMI right here, hooked up just like normal through the HDMI port on the car. Sorry it's a little dark in here, it's in the middle of the night and couldn't sleep without trying to figure this out. So for starters, I'm just going to go ahead and enter the diagnostics menu, and to do that, that's power, home, and forgive me if this is wrong, it's either power, home, and eject, or power, menu, and eject, but we're going to find out here in just a second. See if I can get this phone somewhere. Oh. Hopefully you guys can hear me and see me all right. That's mounted on the headrest, so my apologies if it's not coming in clearly. Alright, so it was the power, home, eject. On this screen, I've seen a couple, well, I've really seen just one YouTube video of a gentleman with a similar model vehicle with a slightly different head unit, and he'd entered the menu button for about 10 seconds on the screen to enter into the advanced settings. That doesn't work on this particular model, which is a late model 2014 with a non-Navi. You have to enter the detail information settings, and once in this mode you can push and hold the menu button for about 5 to 10 seconds, and you can see that that screen changed. And let me get you guys in here a little closer. So you can see that that screen has changed from this, let's go back by one, from this to this, pushing and holding menu, to this, and I believe you can go one more setting if you push and hold menu. Yeah, so there it is. And this just gives you a couple of more options for the car. I haven't played around with everything. Well, I've played around with everything, but I haven't tested all the options hooked up with the laptop and doing the software update and a few other things. But what I was really interested in is just having my laptop plugged in to the vehicle and setting it up with Dragon Naturally Speaking so that I could use the laptop in the car while I was driving. And unfortunately, due to the horrific voice recognition program that they've installed with the Honda series vehicles, which from what I hear, is going to change in 2016 when they come out with some more features. It's pretty deplorable, and the car about 90% of the time doesn't recognize anything that I say. So to solve that, I'm going to have that laptop hooked up to this screen, and what I've found out is I can have the laptop plugged in to the screen and still have my phone plugged in to Bluetooth if I'd like, and the phone will still interrupt the computer if need be if I'm getting a phone call. But I'm probably going to set up iTools, or I think it's called Air Squirrel, and essentially use the phone as a mobile hotspot while doing a virtualized application for the iPhone, so that, and just so you guys know, this is an iPhone 5C, I believe, and basically I can take the phone calls that I need and do emails while I'm on the road without actually having to touch the dash. And just to show you guys the power of the menu button, there's not a whole lot of buttons on this dash, so they've kind of compacted all the advanced features just into the menu button. But essentially what I did in order to get this to work, which is a little unusual, I've seen some videos of people taking the VSP, which is really the vehicle speed sensor, and that's essentially hardwired to the HDMI port down here, and essentially turns off this screen display if you have something hooked into the HDMI while you're driving for an operations safety mode. And after going into the second menu, if you go to your vehicle model information, you'll see this DD VSP Air. I can't say that it's going to work on every vehicle because honestly I don't know enough about this system to say one way or the other. I was very careful when I was changing the settings for, well, just about anything on the car, and took photos of each one of these display menus just in case I changed something I didn't want to. But worst case scenario, there is a reset, which is probably going to be hard for me to find at this point, but I think it's at the bottom. Maybe not. Well, there's a reset that's in here that allows for you to reset all this data and go back to the factory settings, although it would concern me a little bit if I decided to do that, because I believe that in doing so it would probably reset a lot of the information that's relevant to your driving profile, i.e. your parking lines, and essentially the way that the cameras operate, as well as a few other things. So I don't really want to have to do that unless it's a worst case scenario. But just give you the idea, it's vehicle information, DD VSP Air. I shut that off, and immediately after I shut that off, for whatever reason, the laptop will work just fine now with this screen while driving. Although it's somewhat of a pain to get to the screen to get this to operate with a 7-inch display. Not exactly sure why it's like this, but just to give you an idea. And again, these are just some extra menus that if you wanted to, you can enter in to some of the more advanced settings. And if you know more about these things than I do, and then you might find them useful for maybe something else that you'd like to set up with the HDMI or possibly the USB ports. I haven't had an opportunity yet to play around with getting the USB port to work with the laptop, which again, this is an IdeaPad, so this is one of the convertible tablet series that has touchscreen, but I don't really want to use it, as it would probably be a red flag to any peace officers out on the road. I want to stay as legitimate as I possibly can with just the 7-inch display. And as you probably all know, the back sides of the vehicle, which is ridiculously hard to see right now. Let's see if I can give you guys some light back there. There. As you know, those seats go up quite a ways, and the window, which you can barely see in the middle of the night, but the window in the back is pretty small, so trying to see someone writing an email or doing any type of business, which is illegal in California, on the 7-inch display is relatively difficult and not something that most peace officers are going to be able to see, either from the driver's side when they're on the driver's side of their vehicle, or from the passenger side when, especially, the 7-inch display is actually mounted perfectly, so it's right below. Let's see if I can get my finger in there. That's the door frame right there, and if you follow that around, it's essentially below the door frame, where you'd have difficulty seeing in unless you're in a raised vehicle like an SUV, or possibly one of the, I know the sheriff vehicles sometimes have the diesel 6.0 Internationals, so they'd probably be able to see in being in a slightly higher vehicle, but for the most part it's pretty well secluded. Now, getting to the fun stuff, I'm going to get out of this main setting display, and just again, don't forget the power of the menu button. Many of these other menus have options in them if you push and hold the menu button. Oh, whoops, left my Wi-Fi on. Stop. I don't know if I can find a menu here that has some more options in it. Let's see. Give me a second and we'll find something. Oops. Well, obviously nothing in there. Let's see. Vehicle model information. Nope. Okay, well, I mean, this is turning out to be a little more difficult than I was hoping for. But as I said, you can basically get into some additional options using the menu button, and for whatever reason I'm having a hard time trying to find one of the menus that offers some additional features. But if you play around with it, I'm sure you will find the same things. Actually, you know what? I think this menu here, you will find that the menu button will just open up, there we go, a lot more options on the screen. So that was an example of being in the beacon. So beacon, it's testing, done, menu. And then menu opens up a lot more options here, where it's actually giving you specific operations of the car, like cam switch, push to cam switch to hold, buzzer operation, and one of the reasons why I wanted to get my laptop hooked up to the car is that these values are all changeable under the serial connection, but I don't have the Honda software needed in order to do that, so I'm looking around for a third-party software program to see if I can find something that will let me customize the vehicle a little bit more. But for right now, I'm pretty happy with just getting the laptop hooked in to the car. Just give you an idea of how ridiculous it is to actually get the laptop screen to pop up onto the display. You can't, unfortunately, just push the HDMI button and scroll over, and you guys probably can't see this, but basically it just tried to hook up to my phone in doing that, and is asking my launcher for the Honda link if it could connect, which I'm going to ignore. So the way that I would get the screen to pop up here is you do need to put the vehicle into the home button's not showing up. You do need to put the vehicle into the AUX HDMI option, and then you actually access the laptop screen from audio. So as soon as you're on this screen, the only button that's going to work to get this to pop up is audio, and once audio comes up, it typically throws the screen right back in front of you. You can push HDMI again, or you can just push the back button, and that should take it out. And there you go. You can see the screen is displaying pretty well. And there is a slight lag time, which I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Still don't think you guys can see that, but that's right. Basically, there's a slight lag time from the laptop to the 7-inch TFT display, which overall, considering the size of the screen, the fact that it's built in, and the fact that this is a company vehicle and not something that I'd like to take too far apart, it works pretty well. I still have to get the functionality of the screen, if possible, to work with the laptop, and I think I've found a way to do that, but I don't really have the time right now. As you can see, it's 2:55 in the morning, so I'm pretty much done at this point, but I will take a quick test drive just to show you that after shutting off the VSP Air, that it works without a problem while driving on the road. You can see the handbrake is off, so we're off now. We're in park. Let's see if I can get both these items here. So the screen still works just as it normally would right now. You can see that the backup camera came on just fine. And I'm going to go ahead and start pulling out here. And we're going into drive, screen. So you guys can see that, and we'll go ahead and get some motion here. Let's shut off the lights so you guys can maybe see out the window a little bit. Turn on my brights here, maybe you guys can see a little better. And I'm just going to drive around the block real quick, but it'll give you the idea that it works without a problem. And even without the touch screen options, once I have Dragon Naturally Speaking plugged in, it's really going to alleviate any concern that I've had about using just the fasten seatbelt so you guys can actually tell that I'm moving. But that's really going to alleviate any concerns that I have about using the touchscreen display if necessary, just because I don't really want to use it either way while I'm driving, as it might be too obvious that I'm writing an email or a text message on the on-screen display, and like I said, I really don't want to draw any attention to myself while I'm on the highway, which I commute for 2 hours every day into the city from Sonoma County, so really want to avoid any peace officers out on the road as much as possible. So screen's still on, we're still moving. And just pull right back in here. And go ahead and put in park. Both screens, no problem. Shut my brights off, and that's basically it. So there you go. That's my first video for YouTube and my first video for the 2014 Honda Civic EX non-Navi system. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please comment if you guys have any experiences that differ from my own. Sure love to hear about them, and if I get the laptop display to work with the TFT display in the near future via the USB port, I will certainly post an update so that everybody can see and use their laptop in their car, and hopefully their phone as a simulated device on the laptop as well, so that way you can take some calls and get away from this god-awful head unit that comes pre-installed with the car. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed.